Guys, I don't want you for a minute even to believe that I thought that something that was done to Charlie Kirk was an okay thing, because it was some kind of if, of course, there is such possibility that it was some kind of revenge for Japanese being hit with Hiroshima and Nagasaki by some kind of ancestor of Charlie's. And they gave an oath to their, ancestors to revenge for the bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki and war and losing war, whatever it is. So anyways, those things that happened back then in Japan and Japanese, I believe, are well deserved. And if you ask me, they should have bombed that whole damn country, just like with Britain, it should go underwater. That's just my opinion. And I'm expressing my opinion here because this whole thing, what happened, should be viewed, including people who dare to talk about Gaza and judge Israel. This whole thing should be within certain context that people do not want to see. So mostly I see that it was the hand of God, because I read that Rasputin, who was actually a great person and a very spiritual person and a monk, whom British agents just murdered and slandered, he had this prediction of a vision that it would have happened. And he didn't even say that it was Americans. So this was taken from the memoir long before the war. Both wars happened. This is how Vyrubova describes it. My friend was running around the room, scaring everyone and asking them to pray. He was shouting in a terrible voice, saying that he had visions where he could see people burning, an island and 2 cities, but there were no cities and there were no more people. He said that they had been there, but they had burned in the fire. It was stuffy on both sides. I was afraid and asked, Grigory, is this in Russia? Grigory was breathing heavily and replied, what do you want from Russia? Isn't the future slavery enough for you? Isn't there enough blood flowing witch? Isn't there enough satanic power and epi-red? I cried and left. And he sent Darya to tell me that God would not spare the Japanese midgets, and his hand would not scruple, he would not hold his wrath. But still I was afraid. So you see, the person who had this vision, who had this extrasensory perception, he viewed it, I think correctly, as the will of God. Now, this will be an article about Japanese Unit 731. This is from the newspaper called Известия. It's called Servants of the Devil, how Japanese Unit 731 exceeded all possible atrocities of the Third Reich. About the activities of Special Unit of Army of Japan, Unit 731, the world might not have known. However, Professor of University of Medicine Sciences Katsuo Nishiyama made it his duty that Japanese archive would be published, and so would be the data on the horrible experiments. Unit 731 had 52 surgeons, 33 nurses, 49 engineers, and 1,117 military doctors. Their goal was to create a powerful biological weapon that would be capable to destroy the whole planet. The means to achieve that goal would be citizens of China, USSR, and Korea. This unit was existing for 9 years. Data on number of the dead, the victims are different. Some sources quote that Japanese killed 3,000 people. The others say that there were about 10,000 people and more. Within this camp, they were creating a bioweapon. Not only creating, but also they studied how long a person can survive under the pressure of extreme factors. In such a case, endless deaths were just expected ending. Nobody left that Unit 731 alive. Blah, 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 blah. Japan decided that they needed to have a biological weapon in its arsenal. When they had the peak of their growth, this was in the end of 1920s. Then the country of the rising sun had several influential enemies, USA and Great Britain, that were they were major powers in that region. Then also Soviet Union, that was getting stronger after the Civil War. Japanese were not sure that samurai culture was necessary, was really a worthy instrument. They didn't want this to be their ceiling. Then Shiro Ishii appeared, a Japanese microbiologist. By that time, he already visited leading bacteriological laboratories of Europe, and he was very inspired. He was not only one who dreamed of creating a biological weapon as main advantage of Europe. His report was having great success among his superior. Unlike artillery, it is not capable of killing the live power force, but the bacteria without any sound can strike human organism and animals, bringing them slow and very torturous death. We don't need to produce all this artillery. We just can poison quite peaceful things: clothes, cosmetics, food and drinks, eatable animals. We can also spread it via air. That's what Ishii thought. Minister of Military Sadao Araki in 1932 gave an order to finance this, and this was when Japan occupied Chinese province Manchuria, 20 kilometers from Harbin. Unit 731 was there. Shiro Ishii was the head of this unit. His employees were the best graduates of prestigious universities of Japan. The complex was quickly built, and it had the name, had division of water supply and prevention of diseases of Kwantunski Army. It was the Prince Takeda was its protege. 1936, the work started. The end of them was only by the Red Army in 1945. The logs. People of Manchuria had panic attacks seeing this. The experiments were held on what was called the logs. This was what the torturers called the people who were on the territory of Unit 731 as the source for experiments. We thought that the logs were lower than the livestock. That's what Japanese scientists said during questioning. CRC was very much interested in the plague. In the Middle Ages, this disease was capable of destroying the whole countries, but it was not enough for this Japanese man. He managed to have a stem of it that exceeded his initial power by 60 times. For this to be achieved in horrible tortures, many people died. So subjects to his experiments were infected. Then they were observed how the disease is going. For this, the person was operated on while being alive. He was dissected, and they took out the internal organs. This was not done under anesthesia because Japanese scientists believed that anesthesia impacts the results of experiments. The victims were not let to die. They took pains to prolong their life by resorting to supporting therapy. The motives were not human. On the contrary, the victims suffered even more. When they were operated on, they invited artists to draw them. Their task was to depict internal organs of those who were infected. CRC didn't like monochromic pictures. He demanded bright, juicy colors and as much close to reality as possible in order to document the process, so he said. There was special subunit in Unit 731. Their task was to find out what were the limits of the human organism. With this, the victims, prisoners, were subjected to horrible tortures, unhuman tortures. For example, they cut off arms and legs, then they froze them, then they set them on fire, and then they watched how the gangrene would develop. Unhuman screams of the victims were recorded. Old men and women were not an exception to being subject to torture. Even the pregnant one. The fetus was infected with the new stem of a dangerous disease, and then they watched how the pregnancy would go. And in the first years of life of the infants, of course, nobody would be fated to live that long. But we know now that thanks to British friends, my vagina can absorb the nuclear fallout. Thank you. Another active field of their research in Unit 731 was vivisection. The prisoners were deprived of their most important human organs and limbs, and then they were sent to different laboratories in order to die while the observer was watching them. Within the walls of this institution, miracles happen sometimes. People manage to fight the disease. Unfortunately, this didn't mean that they would be returned home. They would be infected one more time. This time, nobody could survive it. Nobody left that complex alive. Most of the victims of CREC were Chinese. This was 70%, and 30% were citizens of USSR. Some were also Manchurian, Mongol, British, and Australians. Besides the plague, they were also working on Siberian botulism and so on, tracks. And in the end, Japan got into its hands everything it wanted. The biological weapon was not only tested within the lab, but it was also within the fights when they fought with the Chinese army. Japanese army was sending their thanks to Unit 731 during the battles. CRC in details imagined how he would already have all these sabotages with the help of these weapons. They planned to hit with the fortified stem of plague. They would target Khabarovsk, Blagohenshinsk, and Chita of Russia. Of course, Japan also thought about hitting USA in order to achieve most efficiency of their product. And the plan, of course, would have been a success, but for intervenence of Prime Minister of Japan, Hideki Toshio. He thought that the war was finished, and he was very much afraid, as if of fire, that his opponents will start to take in revenge. Now my favorite part, the comments. So a mother births all these monsters. This was Japanese mother. So the encephalitis from the tick is also their hands. In Far East, there has never been cases of getting encephalitis after being bitten by a tick. Common folks lived there for centuries and never had encephalitis. Unit of Arsenyev had spent a lot of time in taiga forest and never got ill. After 1936, this encephalitis started to spread further. During 89 years, it spreaded to the central part of Russia. Dersu-Zala also never had this disease. Maybe Japanese didn't work on it because they mostly worked with bacterial infections, plague, botulism, and so on. Because they can be extracted with light and biological microscope. Blah, 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 blah. The tick encephalitis, Japanese released during World War I already. From the Far East, it spread it to the whole country. They are scam. I agree about the scam. And how many of those murderers continued to work in the United States? I watched a documentary named Unit 731, 3 series. All that you read here was shown there and much more. After that, I couldn't fall asleep. I cannot believe that such things can happen in our time. The Middle Ages Inquisition just some light thing comparing to that. You have very strong nerves. I had my hairs raised just from reading all of that. It's not 100th part written here of what they actually did. For example, they put a human person's who was alive hands into the liquid nitrogen, and immediately they would hit it with a stick, and then the hand would be smashed into small pieces like if it were made of glass. I watched it a long time ago and I still remember it. I remember they showed it on our TV. I feel sick. How the earth carried such people. Why was they taken as prisoners of war? Do you think it would be better to shoot them? No, we would need to do something like they would feel on their skin what their victims felt. This would be just. But Americans took them under their wings. They evaded the responsibility. Not everybody was acquitted. I studied that issue at Khabarovsk process. They only acquitted 12 men, out of which half had direct work in Unit 731. His idea inspirator and others were surrendering to Americans, and then they lived until old age, having a bunch of money and couldn't understand what were the claims against them. They served a great purpose. Their horrible atrocities, they explained that prisoners of war are not people. They, so to say, quote, lost their faith, and they hurried to do the same when it would be profitable to themselves. Also, they carried their general regalias with them. These are not doctors, not military men. These are not humans. This is just zeros. And in Japan, they are now heroes. These are wild beasts without any honor. They surrendered to them due to money. Yeah, I fully agree with you. And my communication with Japanese, I knew it's just some kind of exalted fake sweetness. I just feel it with all my inside intuition that these are not typical people that are communicating with you. These are quite not people. They are not humans, and all their royal hypocritical communication with whomever, this is like taking a shower under very dark water. this by any means you try to wash yourself after communicating with the Japanese. I don't know who feels what. I cannot even imagine how Orthodox saint Nikolai Kasatkin could live among these Japanese and blah blah blah. How and this person was claimed to be saint while he was still alive. But the unit 731, this is just the highest point of unhuman mind. This is the demonic possession that comes to life. Sonder, commander of Hitler Nazism, are just faint in comparison. I really pity Japanese after destruction of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Now I don't feel this way. I don't feel sorry for them at all. Part of these criminals were taken by the USA so that their case would not die. After this article, I don't feel sad for Japanese and what happens in Hiroshima. We also need to remember all the encephalitis from the ticks that came from Japan, and Japan should pay us for this. I watched a movie on the internet about the actions of this unit. I think it was called Philosophy of Knife. I wish I hadn't seen it. Mengele, Rudel, Ehman, comparing to Japanese you think are innocent boys. He didn't say that. He said that they just simply relaxing comparing to them. All these deformities, they worse each other. They are the same fruit of the same trees, all these fascist Japanese and the Germans. How do they ask to return Kuril Islands to them? And nobody remembers this thing to them. Why would Japanese have such inclination and lust for all kinds of perversions and horror films? And this is much worse than in America. Now I understand why Americans have lust for violence. This is some sort of infection. Yeah, Japanese are very particular people. Like they're not from this world. Some frightening folk. They, until this day, dare to demand that Hong Kong would be considered their colonies. I don't. They tried to have civil unrest there, but Chinese are great. They react very fast and they just covered the territory and didn't allow anyone there. It's not even monstrosity. I don't understand why monsters were given such a free will to do whatever. This world is under the power of highest powers or what? Or they don't care what happens. In their Japanese field of Confucianism, Shintoism religion is very everything is very their own. In Orthodoxy understanding, this is some kind of a salad of demonic tricks. And the whole world creation and human creation, this is like fairy tales for them. There are nations that should be destroyed. Take modern shows where three women try to the three women fuck in turns with their husband, mix up in various forms in order to find out who is whose. And then also they sell in the package the panties that had been already carried by somebody, and they are dirty and smelly. Such people should be isolated on on their own islands somewhere. This is at least. And if they try to cross the boundaries, they should be destroyed. I watched a movie called A Man Behind the Sun. I cannot unsee it because this was the most scary movie that I ever seen. Comparing to that, all the shocking movies that have ever existed are just Chinese, just child cartoons. Yes, this is quite emotionally strong movie. It's a pity that those who were responsible from this Japanese unit did not carry the punishment in full. In any nation, there are good and bad people, and during the war, it happens that not the best qualities of a man show up. The boomerang has come, which was much worse. It's a pity from Americans. It's a pity that they didn't drop a bomb on Tokyo. It's scary even to read. That's why they're paying for all of this. They either have tremors from earthquakes or they have floods. I have no words. There was also a similar Unit 100 that was famous for human meat consumption. They work in the same key as 731. They applied and spread bacterial infection across the whole Far East. Religion says that one can get into hell after death, but I think that most likely there is hell on earth. Many facts prove that. That's some tough material. Humanity sooner or later will destroy the planet. We have a nice planet where the human wouldn't be. For all the crimes, sooner or later comes the payment. One should print it across all Russia. They also infected the ticks with encephalitis. This was also biological weapons. Based on these crimes, one shouldn't judge the nation as whole. Nobody had this social research, and we don't know exactly what simple Japanese think now, not the elites. And elites can have whatever they want on their mind. There are fools at power everywhere. In Japan, the powers that be once managed to make out of the whole country, Japan, a religious sect, cult, for many centuries. In the 19th century, this whole was expected, and it was all then a consequence, and it was as a result fascism due to religious factor, where the rulers chose the worst kinds of people to head the armies. Now I don't feel sorry for Hiroshima. So the monstrosity of Japanese that bounds with insanity as on the front lines because they have the same attitude to prisoners of war and the civil population on the territories that they occupied. This is not a secret to anybody. After this nuclear bombardment of their so-called peaceful cities, look quite human means to stop this sadism that turned into a national idea. They should never be allowed to raise their heads once again. The Japanese remnants, the Judas of Asian world, to 2 bombs from the States, we should have added about 10 bombs from USSR, and there wouldn't be problems with Kuril Islands. USSR didn't have the bomb nuclear weapons yet, and I think that the States bombed the Japanese in order to show to the Soviet Union that Japanese island is their zone of influence, and in general, Japanese deserve it. So the outcome is those demons just went and lied under those with whom they had war with. We shouldn't pity them. I hope that tsunami will hit them as strong as possible. They should have dropped 6 nuclear bombs, and they limited it to 2 bombs. It's a pity. Yeah, and they hit their own target. To be short, they didn't reach the target. What about Nanking massacre? Japanese are just beasts. So it comes to mind that Hiroshima and Nagasaki is just a karma for Japanese. Now I don't feel sorry for Hiroshima and Nagasaki. So the zipper had this Hiroshima with feeling. In 1945, they had their response. It's pity that it was not the direct target. Many innocent people died. The government didn't care about the situation. It was important for them to receive the results that they needed. And this factory was in Manchuria. This is like, I have nothing to do with this. These kind of things, they are perverted and they should not exist. My grandfather was at war with them, fighting with them. He told me that what kind of things they done to our prisoners of war. After seeing that, his soldiers did not take prisoners anymore. They would just kill them with their shovels. He said that they didn't want to waste bullets on these lowlifes. And I have some souvenirs from that with Arisaki. I never could understand people who admire Japanese culture, that this is like something peculiar, something outstanding and fantastic. I think there is nothing there. Japanese midgets basically are perverts, sadists, and quite radical Nazis. I feel feels in my soul after reading about these evil doings. This is all disgusting. It makes my stomach sick. I feel like I need to vomit and I have a cold sweat running off me. The best punishment for these people is to forget all these developments and never to use them, and to honor the victims of all these experiments and to honor those who made them, free all these innocent victims. I'm sure that these scientists, sadists, and murderers have no repentance about them, only demonic possession and the sadistic obsession with developments. These so-called achievements which they write that they made Japanese medicine advanced, like in Germany and USA, was they worse the tortures of innocent people? Is it not the big price to pay for medicinal progress? So you think they exceeded? So the atrocities of German in concentration camps are not so awful? So at the expense of Japanese torturers, you want to whitewash the Aryans, both the both of them are serial killer types, and you shouldn't compare who is worse. So in our country, they think that Germans are fascists and Japanese are all around samurai and hardworking persons. This can be explained that Japanese haven't reached us quite yet, and their atrocities were mostly in China and Korea. Otherwise, it's possible that bombardment on Hiroshima and Nagasaki would have looked like just something cruel. Japanese is a nation of perverts. This has been known for quite a while. They could boil people alive, and this was not a disgrace to them. Right now, they are selling underpants, panties of other people that were already in use, and they sniff on them. And we all, in our media, only have them praised this Japanese nation. So Hiroshima was a response for such evil doing. This was a boomerang. So I read about this bastard zipper heads in Soviet times. It is important to understand that our liberal kissers would know about this, would be aware about that when they aid to the whole world at the expense of their own folk. Without any doubt, Japanese are the most cruel people on the planet. what was invented by them, the punishment for their wrong called harakiri. The one who was condemned to this would need to put a sword in their stomach and turn it several times, and then cut their stomach through in order to die in tortures. This is without one moan. One moan would mean that they would be looked down on, and even from their closest family. I would say that wild beasts are more merciful. They are freaks. If there are logs among human race, those are Japanese. They are dumb, cold, without soul, without emotions. They are deprived even the foundations of mercy and empathy. They are disciplined, hard-working robots. They are persons without heart and soul. The author forgot to mention that almost nobody from these rags of society did not carry the punishment. Americans, in exchange for such so-called valuable information that was received during so-called experiments, took those torturers to their country and provided possibility to live by good means and work for the benefit of America. I first saw a movie about this by Yelena Masyuk. I was shocked from documents and videos. These were horrible experiments. After viewing this, German fascists took second place. The first place is Japan. Nuclear bombs that were dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, this was the karma for their evil doings. Japanese midgets always superseded everybody in atrocious actions. Those are zipper heads. Thank you, United States, for Hiroshima and Nagasaki. In their essence, Japanese are very cruel people. So, Bolsheviks convicted those people. They fed them during their time in Soviet prisons, and then they let them go home. In Japan, these so-called scientists became national heroes. We just fed our graveyard man, all our history. That's correct that Americans dropped nuclear bombs on them. If you give them free will to do whatever, they will show themselves even more. Fucking samurais. I'm sure they are burning in hell, those scum. My Japanese mama, I hope they burn in hell. Nobody counted how many those killed in Sakhalin. Nobody counted. So Japanese should take accountability for similar things like tick encephalitis and such. such diseases carried by insects. These are the works of their hands. My dear God, it's like all people are given brain and thinking capacity to be smarter to those who are our smaller brothers, so that we could love, sympathize, and take correct decisions, and don't go against the type of our own kind, to do with not by our instinct but with our feeling. But you, God, missed something. What kind of nerves one must have to vivisect people alive? No serial killer can compare. I always said that the best medicines that have been practicing in Germany, Japan, and USA, this was just due to horrible experiments on people, which were conducted by Japanese and German doctors during World War II. Why didn't Yanks bring them to justice, to those inhumans, and took them to do the job for research, so-called? I read the book by Haruki Murakami, Chronicles of Mechanic Bird. There was a chapter, Memories of one Japanese, who was in war in Halhin Gole and met several Mongols that were fighting on the side of USSR. There is a phrase of this Japanese there. Mongols like all kinds of atrocities. I just had a shock that one could think that Japanese do not have lust for all kinds of atrocities. Because this is just a Japanese propaganda, those books. I hope that those scum were not led to die as human persons. I hope that their throats were stuffed with their creations. Many years ago, I watched on Russian channel a documentary about those monsters. They are much worse than the fascists. The most horrible thing is a human being. I watched the videos that they made. Japanese, everything recorded on camera. This movie was shown at night so that the children would not see on TV. This was so horrible, and when you watch it, you realize that this is not a movie. These are real filming. This is just a horror movie. People without any anesthesia had their hands frozen with nitrogen. Then they were cut off. They were cutting their stomachs while they were alive. They fed them with just bread and didn't give them water. They counted days, how long it would take for a human to die without water. Do you remember the name of the movie? No, that was 25 years ago on the Central Channel. Don't insult the devils. They are not capable to do such things. In the history of today's crimes, serial killers are, I would say, just single cases. And during wars, there were, I would say, in Germany and Japan, whole units of military with all kinds of pseudoscientific moral deformities. And this is ideology of those states, like they are the highest race possible. And with others, they can do whatever they want. This is the question, how this approach is different several centuries before our era. Judging by the comment, this was a discovery for many. This surprises me. There are movies and books, also documentary, about this unit. They are freaks. But all those so-called fucked up orthodoxy blame USA that they dropped nuclear bombs on those Nazi Japanese allies of Hitler's. They are fucked up in the head. Cruelty of people has no limit. Not only this, it's also considered that Hungarians during war were also like a wild beast, and they write in the press all the time about some biological laboratories around the world in Soviet Union. These are just zipperheads bastard. There is a movie called A Man Behind the Sun. Yeah, and none of those beasts carried their punishment. This is quite characteristic because medicinal sadism and cannibalism, this is a norm for human world. I thought they respect Americans very much. This was a boomerang karma. Do not do others evil because it will return to you. Americans taught them a good lesson which Japanese will remember forever. Yeah, right now they're like friends. I see there is something wrong with their memory. Scum, they remain the same. So I also wanted to show you some stuff. I think it's about just a second. What they do to dolphins. So there is like Tajikor, Japan dolphin massacre, and there are movies on YouTube which it used to be called Killer Cove, but they purposefully created some kind of dramas, fiction, in order to cover the killings of dolphins by the Japanese. So they are exceptionally cruel. They pierce the dolphins and they die in horrible agony. So I would like to say that, in my opinion, it's just my opinion again, that whole island should go underwater, the whole country. Also, I wanted to say that this is me. I have awe of dolphins. I wouldn't even, touch them and exploit them if they are, used in some entertainment parks. I think that they are higher beings from another planet, and that's why I think that people would need Messiah and develop telepathy, which is predicted to be reached by 2060s, so that all these organs like sonars taken from all these beautiful animals would not be exploited, because all these things, including the mobile phones that we use, they are artificial things, and they are only due to the fall of man, and they are given to us by Satan. So we should think about what we use and how we manage. So in short, the conclusion should be, at least from my side, that Charlie Kirk's murder was not justified, and also one should think less of how so-called Palestinians are exploited, bombarded, offended by Israelis, because if they cannot live in peace with the Israelis, if you understand what I mean.